We try all the products that we introduce to our community. We look at the ingredients, we look at the certifications, we look at where it's sold, which is a big indicator in terms of, again, those retail buying standards. We'll look it up in the databases depending on the type of product it is. We are here to, make sure that we introduce good things to our community.
The average American lives way better than Carnegie, who was the richest person at the time, because of all these things that we now have out there at our disposal. But I think the flip side of that is also kind of why I think your company exists is, how do you know what's what out there? I mean, I get so lost in that. And also from a brand perspective, when companies say, oh, we're sustainable, and then you kind of peel the onion and go, yeah, you do something in a sustainable way, but the rest of your business is really not. So I don't know how you think about, or if you talk about much of this on your website, is when people think about products. I just know that's a challenge when I'm trying to really look at a business and decide, like, are they really getting behind sustainability, or is it kind of lip service for some marketing?
Yeah, I will say there is a principle that I do live by per se, and that is, like this practice of perfection and like pursuing perfection at all costs and kind of punishing brands and businesses that haven't gotten everything perfect also doesn't work. Yeah. So for example, with Social Nature, we will do a lot of work with early stage brands, which by and large are the real innovators. They're generally speaking doing things with, the best ingredients, really thoughtful sourcing. Sometimes that doesn't scale from a sourcing perspective, or sometimes even from an ingredients perspective at a certain cost that would be accessible and available to the mainstream. And this is where, when the big CPG companies buy out these emerging brands, once they get to, that $50 million mark is usually a point where a lot of the name brands that we come to know and love suddenly got bought by the Nestle's, the P&Gs, the Unilevers of the world. And that's where there have been changes sometimes that have been made once a company reaches that level, just to work within the economics of these larger CPG companies. What's concerning there is that if there's been brand loyalty built with a certain consumer base around certain standards that brand had, and then they change, and that's not typically transparent unless you're really following that change, I wish there was more transparency around those changes, because that certainly has happened.
It's like Amazon buying Whole Foods, and then Amazon decides, these things that you were so strict on, not anymore. I don't think they've done that. But
there's probably some of that.
Okay.
Where's with some of that happening?
Okay.
So it, and that really kind of puts it back on the consumer, which is why it is overwhelming to be like, whoa, even when I thought something was good, if there was an acquisition that I didn't know about, and major ownership change, things may have changed on that label. And there's more and more apps coming out. Like there's a great app, I think it's called the Carrot app, where you can like scan labels, and it'll tell you exactly how good it is for you on different metrics. It's still a lot of work for people, which is why Social Nature does the curation and the legwork for you. Like, we try all the products that we introduce to our community. We look at the ingredients, we look at the certifications, we look at where it's sold, which is a big indicator in terms of, again, those retail buying standards. We'll look it up in the databases depending on the type of product it is. So we'll do our best. Honestly, what also really helps is the product reviews. So when our community members try the products, we do our best. We're not a certifying body, but we are here to, make sure that we introduce good things to our community. Then tens of thousands of consumers try it and review it. And that's where the brands that we work with get some really good feedback from consumers around things that may not yet be perfect. For example, a brand may have put a lot of thought into the product and the ingredients, but the packaging is too much. People will say it, which is great, because then the brands can use that as a data-driven point to go to their R&D team or their investors and say, hey, consumer has spoken. We should reduce the packaging of our products. And that's been also really inspiring to see how, when we harness the voice of the consumer and we give the consumer, especially for those brands that really value the voice of the consumer, can then use that feedback to change and better their products. And we've seen that come through our platform, several times over, to know that that's happening.